This is a render I made a while ago and I am pretty happy with it. I'll change it to the rendered view. However, I would like to now go ahead and add a little bit of visual randomness and variety, especially to the plants and these boards, to go ahead and make it a bit more interesting. Let me quickly show you the workflow and how to randomize transforms and colors within just a few clicks so you can use it for your own projects. So what I could always do is just grab every other plank. Let me quickly select them and then essentially just drag it out a little bit. So let's go ahead and move this like so. And I think that already adds a little bit of randomness and a little bit of visual intrigue, but you can still see that this is very deliberate and manually done. So instead, let me quickly undo this. And here's what I think is a better way. So let's also select all the other planks that we didn't select. So we have them all selected. So now with all of those selected, let's make sure we're in object mode and then come to the object tab right here, go to transform and then move all the way down until you see randomize transform. And you will see that nothing happens initially, but we do get this window. If it is not open, it means it'll just be in the side here. Just click here to open it. And here we can basically randomize everything about these objects. So what we can do, for example, is set this scale to 2. And now some of them will be bigger, some of them will be smaller. Now this is obviously not what I want for my purpose. We also have the rotation, which is also not what we necessarily want. However, this is also very helpful. You can go ahead and randomly rotate. It makes a little bit of a mess of my scene here, but this is especially good for example, chairs or something like that, where it just seems a bit off to have it all perfectly aligned. And that's where Z rotation can really do a lot. What I am looking for is the location X. So I just want to drag this out a tiny bit. So I'll set this to something like 0.2, and that will create this nice randomness to it. Now, obviously, I do still manually change this. So for example, this plank is way too far out. So I will move this one a little bit, and then perhaps also this one, since these two are very similar. And I think that creates a very nice pattern immediately. And now I would still like to look and see if I can do anything with color variation or color randomness. So the only thing that I could really think of in this scene is the fact that all of these leaves on these plants are individual objects. Now that's not very optimal, but you can't win them all. Now they also all have the same material. They have material 004 in my project file here. So let's go ahead and actually randomize this color so it has a little bit of variety in the plants, which does add a lot in my opinion. With one of my plants selected that has the material, I'll come up to the shader tab at the top here, and we will get our shader editor open right here with our principled BSDF. This is a very simple material. And now to randomize this, we are going to do very simple. I'm quickly going to set this back to rendered view so we can see it change. Let's go ahead and add an object info node and a color ramp. And that's all we really need for this setup. Let's start off by dragging the random into the factor right here. Don't take the location or the color or the alpha, just take the random, because that will make sure that every single object that has this material gets a random instance from in between this color ramp. So first of all, I'm going to use this color right here. So I'll grab this hex code and I will put it into the white tab like so. And then the black tab, we are going to make a color that is close to the green and makes sense for our plant. So I'm going to make it sort of like a yellow, since, you know, green and yellow, that variety works very nicely. So for a very small variation, it is important that you take colors that are close together. We will quickly connect this and then you will see. I'll zoom in on this plant right here so we can take a good look at it. Once we go ahead and connect this color into the base color, you will see that we immediately get a little bit of variety. It's pretty subtle, but I want it to be subtle for this purpose. If we would change one of these, for example, to red, we would immediately get kind of like more autumn colors, which definitely has its charm. But for my actual project here, I would like it to be a bit more on the yellow and green side. Also, a quick interruption to show you that in my render, there's a very good picture of my dog. Here's my dog trying to catch a snack mid-air. I think that already adds a lot of visual intrigue. Now, I'm also quickly going to do it for the wood planks, just to show you that even with a quote-unquote more complex material, not that this is super complex, but still it shows you that you can just add this randomness into existing materials. So what I'm going to do again is bring in the object info node, and I'm going to bring in a color ramp. Now, nodes really just work from left to right. So even if you have a very, very complex material that you just downloaded and you don't understand at all, if you want to add randomness into it, all you really have to do is get your object and color ramp in between the base color and the principled BSDF and whatever the tract actually, you know, leads into it. And we want to mix it together right there. So let me show you. Let's go ahead and move all of this stuff backwards a little bit so we have some space to work with. And we'll move these two over here and we will bring in a mix color node. And let's plop that in between our hue saturation from this material and the actual principled BSDF. Now we will do the same setup, putting the random into the factor, and we will go ahead and grab an existing color from the actual material that we have. And I'll put that on the white. And then on the black tab, what we're going to do for this specific purpose is we're actually going to make it red because we want kind of like a reddish tint to come out of it. If you want, for example, blue variation, you could send it to blue, but this is going to be very subtle. You'll see it. We are going to plug our randomness color into the B, and you will see that we get this insane amount of randomness. We actually only want a little bit of variation, so I will set this factor to 0.05, for example, and you won't even really see it. But if I set this to 0 again, oh, my bad. So if we set this to 0 and then back to 0.05, I don't know if you'll see this very well. Maybe set it a little bit higher to 0.2 or so. You will see now that variation starting to be, more visible. So we'll leave it to something like 0.1 and leave it nice and subtle. I don't want it to be too extreme, but you can see that even if you have an existing material, you can just plop it right before the base color and just get that randomness to work. So here we have the original render and the render with the variety. I do like it with the variety so much more, especially considering that it only took like a couple of clicks to do. It's very easy to do for renders where you have multiple objects that are generally the same, but just, could use a little bit of that randomness, because in reality, nothing is ever exactly the same color or exactly the same size or perfectly aligned. So I hope you found this useful. If you learned something, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. If you have any feedback for me, I would appreciate if you left a comment. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Love you.